Welcome to Stop the Fight. And today we're talking about this weekend's action between Chris Colbert and Nayan Bayar. Let's go!
Don't brag about taking my side piece! Don't brag about taking my side piece, though!
I broke my back. Back is broken. Spinal.
And he's strong man, good boy, just.
Chris Colbert, 15-0, 6 knockouts, super featherweight, 24-year-old. He is the one with the colorful hair, ladies and gentlemen, if you've never seen him fight. Chris Colbert is a very exciting fighter. He's just fun to watch in the ring. If Chris Colbert, though, had some power, he would already be a household name. If he had that, Gervonta Davis power, which unfortunately for the young man, he's young, he's 24, he does not. But it doesn't mean he's not a high-level fighter. He is a very high-level fighter, and we're going to see him in there with Nayan Bayar. So, Nayan Bayar last fought Gary Russell. Well, not last, but prior to. He fought, actually, Colbert Breedy. But before then, he fought Gary Russell. And that was a notable fight. That's at least the fight that I've really seen. So, how did he do against Gary Russell? Like, what can we expect? What kind of a challenge he's going to give Mr. Colbert? Well, he did okay versus Gary Russell. He did okay in a losing effort, of course. He lost by unanimous decision. He showed toughness, strive, determination, but he was a little bit simple. King Tug is his alias, by the way. He was a little bit simple. He is 12-1 with 9 knockouts, so he's got some power. About 70% clip rate. So, will he be able to bother our young Chris Colbert? I don't really think so here. I mean, anything's possible, of course. He's a wide under, but I don't think so. The much smaller, Gary Russell's 5'4.5", and Nayan Bayar's 5'7", and Chris Colbert's 5'8". So if Nayan Bayar wasn't able to bully Gary Russell like that, I don't think he'll find the openings to do the same with Chris Colbert. Also, Nayan Bayar didn't do so hot against Breedy. It was a split decision victory, and even though he knocked Breedy down, he lost a lot of those rounds. So we're seeing, again, I think we're going to see a little bit of coronation here for Chris Colbert. And in many ways, I think he was already coronated. He was already crowned prior to. If you've seen him, he is a very high-level fighter. We just want to see how high, right? I think this is like a step in the right direction for the young man. Again, his speed, he has got a lot of bite in the sense where, he's got a lot of will to fight. Like if you look at some of his clips, he's throwing a lot. He really wants to get the person out there. Like I said, he could get you out. And as a matter of fact, in his last fight, he got Jamie Arboleda out of there in the 11th. It was a TKO victory. He could get you out. It's not completely like pillow-fisted, but it is only 6 knockout and 15 fights. Many of his early fights actually did wind up going the distance. If you look at his first 6 fights, up until he fought 8-rounders, only 2 of them were stopped. So, like I said, he's not a puncher. He's never going to be a puncher. But what do us gamblers see here? Well, currently what we see is Chris Colbert at minus 625, and Nayan Bayar. Oh my God, sorry guys. Nayan Bayar at plus 425. Now, do I think Nayan Bayar is going to win? No, I don't. And I think I'm going to sit this one out, to tell you the truth. I don't see DraftKings doesn't have an over-under, does it? No, I don't see an over-under for it. But I don't think I'm going to bet on this fight. I think there is a possibility that Nayan Bayar wins. Of course, he's got some pop. Chris Colbert's eagerness to fight is something that can bite him. So if you look at him, an opponent will hit him and he will come back right away. Well, in those flurries that he does, again, I explained this many times before, when you are flurrying, and all feather-fisted fighters have this weakness. When you are flurrying, which is how you win those rounds, which is how you keep your opponent off base, the opponent think Danny Garcia versus Amir Khan, best example, can throw in the middle of your flurries and land right on your chin. And if Nayem Bayar is going to have a chance, that's what he's going to need to do. He's going to need to back Colbert up. But the problem here is that he wasn't really able to back up Gary Russell Jr., as I said earlier, and this is a bigger man. Which is why I'm not really entertaining even the plus 425. You know? It's like, why even throw away $25 or $100 or whatever it is that you want to bet, $1,000? There's no, it's not one of those. You know, I really believed that potentially in last week's fights, Lomachenko could lose to the significantly bigger Nakatani due to the fact that Nakatani gave enough problems for Teofimo. You know, I was wrong, but I thought that was a reasonable bet to make, a reasonable underdog pick. Over here, I think this is less reasonable, to tell you the truth. Although, at the end of the day, because I'm a degenerate gambler, I still may put some money on Nayem Bayar. I don't see any over-unders yet. If there's obviously an over-under, I'm going to take the over. But I think that Nayem Bayar, that's really his only chance. He's not going to outbox Colbert. And it's not going to happen. He's too quick. He's a little bit bigger than him. I think he's going to be landing quite at will. There's even a chance that Colbert gets the stoppage himself. That's also how good I think Colbert is. But again, we could be wrong, guys. You know, this is in a way a step up because Colbert did fight Gary Russell Jr. and Nayem Bayar did fight Gary Russell Jr. And I view Gary Russell Jr. as one of the best fighters at 126. One of the best. So, at featherweight. And anyone who can go the distance with Gary Russell and not get entirely shut out is going to at least give me something that I can compare. You know, you want to see what people do against like opponents. Now, of course, this is boxing, and styles are more important than necessarily how you did against like opponents. You've seen me, even last week, get burned on just comparing like opponents with Teofimo and Nakatani against Lomachenko. So don't just go on like opponents, but it is a good kind of, I feel, grounding for us as fans and observers, as bettors, as whatever. Again, guys, and none of this is financial advice. Please, you're all grown people. Please, you place your own bets. This is just what I'm doing. This is not what you should be doing. If you choose to do any of this, you did it on your own volition. So, you know, and like I said, I believe Gary Russell Jr. is possibly the best fighter at 126 pounds. I really do. You know, his only real blemish was against Lomachenko. And there is nothing wrong with losing to Lomachenko. It's not like he was made a fool of. He was beaten convincingly, but not made a fool of. There were rounds he won in that fight. And you saw that maybe, you know, the problem with Gary Russell was his feet weren't as quick as Lomachenko's. I don't think it was necessarily the boxing IQ or any of that stuff. He just doesn't have the foot speed, nor the footwork that Lomachenko did. So oftentimes he was completely out of position. Or Lomachenko was in position and Gary Russell was open. The hand speed, I think Gary Russell was probably a little faster. But by the way, if you guys haven't seen that fight, go watch Lomachenko versus Gary Russell because the opening 4 rounds, it's lightning quick. You want to see like speed demons? You want to see what it's like when like 2 of the fastest people in the world, 2 of the fastest boxers in the world, are boxing very high level. Those first 4, 5, 6 rounds, really those first 4, of the Gary Russell-Lomachenko fight is amazing. And again, Lomachenko winds up winning a belt off that fight. So since that point, by the way, Gary Russell has not lost. So this is why I feel we're going to get a little bit of kind of like a feel for Colbert. You know, obviously this is going to take place at 130 pounds. It's not taking place at 126. So, this is for the super feather, not the featherweight. So, this is another problem for Nayem Bayar. All the power and size that he carried in the lower weight classes that he used is now going to be negated at the higher weight class. Remember, when you're small, every 4 pounds really does make a difference. Every 5 pounds, every 10 pounds, of course, makes a giant difference. Just look at people like Bam Bam Rios. Look at Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Cesar Chavez Jr. was a bully at 160 and couldn't even couldn't move anybody at 168. The second he had to move up, that was it for him. Bam Bam Rios, 135, holy shit. By the time he was at 140, 147, nowhere near the same fighter. Nowhere near the same fighter. Those advantages that tilt the scale in your favor, that make you a beast, make you unstoppable, make you walk through fire and break these men down, they are gone. You do not have them. And I'm not saying the Empire was at all a beast that was walking through men and breaking them down and stopping him. He has a respectable stoppage percentage of 70%. You know, like I said, he's got 12 wins, 9 of them by knockout. But in his last 3 fights, have all gone to the decision, which he lost to Gary Russell in one of them, close fight with Breedy, and a win over Marrero. So, you know, and the Marrero fight was kind of close as well, by the way. Competitive. So I actually expect Nyambayar here to be a little bit out of his element. He's going to be smaller, and that's the thing you don't expect with Colbert. You know, he's going to be the bigger guy. So maybe his power was going to come through over here. Like I said, he could hurt you, and he got a stoppage in his last fight. He has a first-round stoppage over Miguel Beltran. So don't play around with Colbert. We're here to see just how good he is. This is one of those fights where we're going to get a real grasp already. We're going to solidify these opinions of where he's at. This is now going to be his 3rd straight 12th-round fight. He's ready. If he gets through here, he's ready for that champion level for sure. And this is obviously for an interim belt. But he's going to be ready for a legit belt right here. Champion at 130. But, again, 130, you're entering into the Holy Grail division of 135, where you're within, like, the gravity of that division. Anyone who's at 130 and 140, anyone in those 3 weight classes, you know, 135 included, of course, is in the gravity of 135. In the gravity. It's the Hall of Fame. It's the career-making division right now. Let's say Lomachenko wins this rematch against Teofimo. You're talking about a wide-open 135 with just pound-for-pound guys in and around that division. If Colbert's as good as we see, we're going to see Oscar Valdez, Shakur Stevenson, Colbert. You're going to have, obviously, the Lomachenko, Gervonta Davis's, Ryan Garcia's, Teofimo's, all in one weight class, all around one weight class, all the fights that could be made. That's insane, guys. Like, it really is insane. Like, I wish that Showtime would put on a Super 6 with this. Obviously, you're never going to get it with promotional issues. But can you imagine, like, a Super 6 with all the best guys at even, you can just even forget about 140. Just think about just 130 and 135, assuming Davis comes down to 135. Let's imagine for a second. You're going to set up the most insane 8-man tournament, the winner of which will undoubtedly be pound for pound. Well, I mean, assuming Canelo doesn't lose, and if Canelo continues the streak, but whatever. You get the point. The winner of this will be a top 3 pound-for-pound guy, for sure. For sure. Imagine a guy at 135 pounds having, let's say, victories over, like, Teofimo and Lomachenko. That would be insane. That would be insane. Imagine someone has a victory over Davis, Stevenson, Shakur Stevenson, and, let's say, Oscar Valdez. That's an insane three-man resume right there. So, like I said, this is the division, and around this division is where legacies are made, which is why this fight is so important for Colbert. This is why. So if he looks really good and he goes on to fight a Valdez, a Burchell, let's say a Burchell is next. Let's say they do another fight with, like, a former champion, see where he's really at. You know what I mean? Like, this is like, he's 1 or 2 fights away, maybe even the next fight after this, where he's fighting a top name guy. So, really big, really important fight for Burchell, and I'm actually excited to see what kind of hair he's going to have in the ring. I love his hair. I love his style. I like flamboyance in the ring. I think it's interesting. It's fun. It's modern. You can be a stoic kind of killer or whatever, you know, kind of no reaction Vitaly Klitschko. That's cool, too. You know, I like that, too. But I also like a little bit of this, like, the pink shorts, you know, with brash attitude, with the colored hair. I think it's cool. I can't wait to see this kid. I didn't even realize, as a matter of fact, guys, I forgot he was even fighting this week. So I thought we had off. I thought maybe I was going to take this week off and maybe not make an episode or maybe go over a career of someone. Remember, I told you I want to do that age series at the lighter weight classes. Maybe see if there's a correlation with fighters turning 33 and them losing or something like that. I don't know yet. But we'll see. So, yeah. So, like I said, I may take Nyambayar. I may, like, put some really small bet on him just to see. simply because I said there is always a possibility that sometimes with these guys, they can feel stronger in a shadow weight, or maybe Colbert doesn't take him seriously. Who knows? Who knows what it is at plus 425? Maybe $20 is worth it. Maybe it'll net you $100. Maybe $100 is worth it. I don't know yet. We'll see. We'll see again, but I don't advise anyone bet on this. Again, not financial advice, but I don't advise anyone bet on it. I think just sit back and enjoy our boy Colbert and see what kind of fighter we are dealing with. Now, again, to go back to Gervonta and, his amazing performance, he did say that he'd rather be between 130 and 135, and I think really that's the right move for him. Now, I know, I'm gonna mention Dwyer here because I do watch the stuff. I like Dwyer. Dwyer told Gervonta not to go down, but I really think Gervonta is a little undersized at 140. He did a great job against Barrios, but he also at points, Barrios was landing, and I think at points did kind of trouble Gervonta. He even himself mentioned that he wanted to, worried about not getting knocked out, which means he's probably letting he felt the power. He was significantly smaller. We see the issues that Lomachenko's having at 135. So this is a similar case with Gervonta at 140. You're just testing him until a bigger guy just beats a good smaller guy. This is an adage in boxing for a reason. Does Gervonta beat Prograis? I'd pick Gervonta to beat Prograis, but I wouldn't be shocked if Prograis is able to get him out of there. Not because I think Prograis is the better fighter, but because Prograis is the bigger fighter and is the guy who naturally fights at 140 and is probably going up to 147. So I actually like Gervonta coming back down. Not 130. I think 130 is a little too much for him. He's a really stocky guy. They call him Tank for a reason because he looks like an M1 Abrams battle tank. But 135 for him, like I said, that's the glamour division. If Gervonta Davis can pick off a Lomachenko, can pick off a Teofimo, a Garcia, he literally can be one of the greats. It's set up that way. It's rare. It's kind of like with Andre Ward at 168 and with Froch. Froch has a legendary resume. And that's because the people at 168 at the time, again, we want to keep saying thank you to Showtime. At the time, around 168, 175, you had the necessary pieces to make Andre Ward an all-time great. Beating Chad Dawson. Well, see, that was a mistake for Chad Dawson to come down in weight. But Chad Dawson came down in weight in a weight class he hasn't really fought in. He was a champ at 175. That's melting down. That's different. And so what Andre Ward did is, not only did he beat like the guys at 168, such as Froch, such as Kessler, right? He then goes and beats Dawson and beats Kovalev in the second fight. Let's say it's again the second fight. I really thought he lost that first fight without a question. But that second fight, he showed that he can adjust. Even in the end of towards the end of the first Kovalev fight, you saw adjustments being made. He was able to neutralize. I just thought he lost so many rounds in the beginning. It's similar to Teofimo Lomachenko plus the knockdown. I really just don't see how he won that fight. But he certainly showed the adjustments. And in the second fight, I think, was able to turn it around quicker. I think he lost. I think going into the 8th, I had Kovalev up by 1 round, or when he would get something, either 7th, I don't even remember. But I think he was either even or Kovalev up by 1, which at that point already told me that Andre Ward had adjusted earlier. So Gervonta Davis, like I said, for Andre Ward, it was set up that he's able to form a legendary career because of who's around him. That's the way it works, guys. Manny Pacquiao's a legend because he was able to beat the Mexican elite in Morales, in Barrera, in Marquez. Knocking those guys out the way he did, well, knocking them out isn't like, getting them out of there the way he did, that's what set him up to be a great fighter. And if Gervonta Davis can do something similar, and I'd favor him against anybody right now. I would. I think the Lomachenko fight would be interesting because Lomachenko's absolutely quicker on his feet than Davis. Davis is a little bit stationary, so he may have problems with Lomachenko. I would not be at all surprised if Lomachenko were able to box around Davis for 12 and win a decision wide. But I would favor, on the top of my head, Davis against any of those guys between 130 and 135. If even half those fights get made, Davis is a top 3 pound for pound, maybe top 1 pound, depending on what happens to the other guys. Top 1 pound for pound fighter, and is gonna make the Hall go down with a great career. I think it's possible for Davis. You got to stay out of trouble. Hopefully Floyd knows how to do that. Floyd said that the Davis win inspired him. He even went jogging at like 3 in the morning. If Davis can keep the work ethic that Floyd has, Davis could be a great fighter. And again, in that division, just because he lost once, Lomachenko was still a legendary fighter. Like, he's a living legend in many ways. You know, Lomachenko beats Teofimo, his resume is gonna look awesome. Knowing that he's smaller than Teofimo. If were he to beat Teofimo in this upcoming rematch that hopefully gets made, we gotta see what happens with Cambosas, but I expect Teofimo to win that. If Lomachenko wins that Teofimo fight, guys, he's gonna be right back up there in the discussion for pound. Right back up there. You know, especially with Crawford doing nothing. Say, who's he fighting next? Crawford, he just got mentioned. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot who he's fighting or who's being mentioned. I know recently you had what's his name, Sean Porter being mentioned, but I don't think Sean Porter was fighting him. Although that's a decent fight, but it was somebody else. Whatever, if I think about it. But I remember being like, just not who a pound for pound #1 fighter should be fighting. Like, that's just not who it is. It's not Thurman either. So. Like, you're wondering, like, what is going on? Like, he really made a mistake, Terrence Crawford did with Bob Barham. I hope the money's worth it because I think he's too old to build a legacy. I don't think we got a chance to see Terrence Crawford at 147 in his prime fight against another really high-level guy. You know, speaking of Lomachenko, we saw him against the Gary Russell in his prime. So we saw what a prime Lomachenko, especially at 126, can do. That's a very difficult 126-pounder to beat Lomachenko. Historically, he's got to be up there. You know, that's how good he was at 126 and probably 130 as well. But you don't quite have that with Terrence Crawford, and that's a big deal. With Andre Ward, you have the Kovalev fights, and same thing for Kovalev. A little bit with Golovkin, the same thing. With Canelo, you have the Golovkin fights, and with the Golovkin, you have the Canelo fight. Those kind of pairs make each other. I think everyone understands what the Crusher is made of. I think most people agree that he probably beat Ward that first time. Not probably. He beat Ward that first fight. And in that first Golovkin fight was really... how both Golovkin-Canelo fights were coin flips. I think Golovkin may have done better in the second fight. I'm one of those people who thought he did worse in the first. My brother actually had Golovkin losing the first and winning the second, so... But the whole point was either one of those fights, like, those men make each other. And I really wish a third fight is made between the two of them. But the problem is Golovkin at this point is just too old. I think Canelo just tees off on him and probably stops him. Probably. So I don't think he knocks him out, but I think Golovkin will retire in the stool. So, again, guys, you see, I'm stressing this episode a little bit, talking about some of the historical aspects of what's going on. But we're living in a good time for boxing. We really are. We're seeing a lot, like, in the heavyweights. Like, everyone is hating on Wilder. I like Wilder. I like Fury. You know, this is exciting. Everyone's like, "Oh, Wilder's a bum." Guys, please stop it. You guys are throwing insults like this is fighting. Of course, men's ego get hurt. Some of you guys probably never fought or something. Yes, some people say some dumb stuff when they get knocked the fuck out. Guys, hello. You know, Joe Rogan's always harping about the fact that he doesn't want to interview people who have been stopped. Yes, Deontay Wilder took a beating. You don't know what that did to him. You don't know what kind of a psychological damage it put on him. You know how he's feeling. Yeah, he's saying some stuff that's a little bit out there, but come on. This was an undefeated champ who got walked down and stopped by a guy he nearly put out in the previous fight. Of course he's thinking wild thoughts. That's why I need that third fight. So, yeah. But, guys, that's going to do it for me for this episode of Stop the Fight. But I'll speak with you guys probably on a Sunday. We're going to do a post-fight. We're going to talk about Colbert. We're going to see where he fits in at 130, 135. Yeah? All right. It's over.
I'm going to go home and break my wife's hip.
Don't brag about taking my side piece. Don't brag about taking my side piece, though.
I broke my back. Back is broken. Spinal.
And he's strong, man, good boy, you know, just...